Let's move on to cladding. I mean, obviously, one of the most controversial words that anyone can use in London at the moment. We recoil almost from the very thought of it, but some people can't because they're living with the aftermath of it, or they're stuck in properties still clad in cladding. It's been almost 4 years since the Grenfell Tower fire, where everybody remembers that flammable cladding was identified as a key cause. Since then, people across London are still living in unsafe homes. Building regulations are determined by central government, not by City Hall. But Liberal Democrat Assembly member Caroline Pidgeon told us the Mayor hasn't done enough to support these people.
One area we would use the role of mayor is to use all the powers and levers available to help all of those leaseholders who are caught up in the cladding and fire safety scandal. Thousands of Londoners are trapped in unsafe homes. And quite frankly, the mayor, yes, a lot of this is the fault of government, but the mayor needs to look at the suggestions Liberal Democrats have put forward, and that includes only working with developers who are taking action to protect leaseholders, also trialling a public register of fire safety risk assessments in London. I think there's a lot more the Mayor could be doing in that area to protect those thousands of leaseholders who are facing bankruptcy and unsafe homes.
Tom Copley, your reaction to this? I mean, there are people in this invidious situation where they're stuck in homes, they don't feel safe, they can't sell them, they can't leave. It's awful.
It's appalling, Vanessa, and it's having a devastating effect on the mental health of thousands of people. And the Mayor has been lobbying the government very, very strongly, and indeed successfully in some cases, for the government to do more to sort this problem out and crucially to protect leaseholders from costs. It is not acceptable and it is not fair, it is not right that leaseholders should be facing bills, sometimes £100,000 or more, in order to remedy not just cladding issues, but building safety issues beyond that, because often when you take the cladding off, you discover that there are issues underneath that were not their fault. It took the government 1 year after the Grenfell fire to set up the fund to remediate the most unsafe cladding, which is the ACM cladding, on social sector buildings. It took them another year after that to set up a fund to do the same with private sector buildings, and a further year after that to set up the Building Safety Fund, which is for other types of dangerous cladding. The entire approach has been slow and piecemeal. One of the things that the Mayor has called for, and he called for this in December, is that the sector itself, given this was a systemic and collective failure, the development sector itself must pay its share. And that's why he's been calling for a levy on developers, which would raise at least £3 billion in order to go towards the cost of cladding remediation and help to protect those leaseholders from these awful costs.
Andrew, Boff, your chance to respond to this. Cladding, I mean, an invidious situation and most destroying to the soul for the people who're stuck in them, in those apartments.
Those people are completely trapped,
and
it's not their fault. That's the thing you've got to repeat to yourself. This is not their error. This is not a bad decision on leaseholders' parts that has resulted in increased costs. And the government's moved quite a way with its commitment to fund those cladding works for buildings above 18 metres. And I think everybody in that situation would welcome that. They need to go further. Those you can be trapped on the second floor as much as you can be trapped on the 15th. And this needs to be resolved. It needs government action because it was not their fault. Now, if we want to attribute fault to this, I think you can see that it's a fault of regulation in the past, not the regulators, but regulation. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, I think the government should be stumping up the money.
And so therefore, I mean, how would you tackle that situation? In other words, to pressure or persuade or compel the government to do that?
Well, I think they're moving on the issue, and I think there may be a change soon. The way the solution they've come to for above 18 metres, those above 18 metres, is a good one. They just need to apply that to under 18 metres.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. So my grateful thanks to Tom Copley there and Andrew Boff. If you're not 100% sure who they were, let me tell you, so you know who you were listening to there. The Deputy Mayor for Housing, Tom Copley, and the Conservative Assembly Member, Andrew Boff. You also heard from Liberal Democrat Assembly Member Caroline Pidgeon.